everybody, welcome back to FoxNews.com Live, and we've got a special feature for you today, an opinion piece, and we're joined by the author, Rod Martin, who tells us, is this the best GOP field of our lifetime? Tell me, Rod, is it true?
Well, it is true, and thank you for having me today.
Sure. It's a pleasure to have you on the program. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that they're kind of as you say, a relative field of unknowns, but there's been some enthusiasm generated in this whole process and in the debates, and some surprises that have stepped forward, like Michelle Bachmann and her performance in the debate, in her first debate. So tell us, what do you think? What do you like, and what are you figuring out?
Well, this really is a shockingly good field for Republicans, and we have to understand the history of the Republican Party in recent years has been pretty grim on this score. We have this mentality of whoever's turn it is, that's the person we're going to nominate, and we do this year after year. The person whose turn it is very frequently is lackluster at best. Sometimes they win, like George H.W. Bush in 1988, who certainly wasn't exciting or articulate, but had a great resume. And we were talking about Huntsman a little bit earlier in your segment, and clearly George Bush had also been ambassador to China. Sometimes they don't do so well, like Bob Dole and John McCain. And we have a history of looking at promoting people to the presidency. Well, this year, there's no one to promote. This year, you're actually going to have a slugfest between a bunch of very well-qualified people who are very smart, very well-educated, come from a lot of different walks of life, and frankly, they're going to have some great debates. We're going to pick sides. Not everybody's going to like everybody, and there's going to be a winner. That person will have 100% name ID. That person will be able to raise a lot of money, and that person is probably going to beat Barack Obama.
Do you really think that? Because I got to tell you, a lot of people, whether you support him, you like him, you're rooting for him or not, they think that he's going to be reelected. Tell me why you think he won't.
Well, I mean, there are the obvious things like 9.1% unemployment.
Yeah.
We saw polling the other day that showed that Obama was losing to generic Republican 43 to 45. Any incumbent under 50 is in a lot of trouble, although, to be fair, this is a little bit early. But he doesn't show any signs of letting up on the things that have dropped him to that ridiculous level. So realistically, if you have a strong Republican, and all these guys are strong, and they can articulate a message, and they're all articulate, and it is really a message of hope and change, to borrow from the president, these guys are going to excite the same kind of passion you saw in 2010 with the Tea Party movement, and they can go all the way. They will certainly have the name ID and the financing they need once they're the nominee.
Okay, so in your assessment today, if the election were held, who would be the best person to go head-to-head against Barack Obama for the GOP? I know it could change tomorrow or next week or change 5 times, but what are you feeling right now?
It probably would change 5 times.
Yeah,
and as I said at the outset of my op-ed, I have not picked a candidate yet. But
I thought
honestly,
since you wrote it, you might have decided.
Well, off the top of my head, if I had to pick, probably in order, our best 3 right this minute are Rick Perry, Herman Cain, and Michelle Bachmann. Perry comes
I like your style, I got to tell you, because I think those are people that have, charisma to them and passion, which, I like. I think we need somebody like that to stand out.
Well, I think you're exactly right. We have been uniquely passionless as a party for a long time. I mean, no offense to Senator McCain, he's done many wonderful things, but let's be fair, he could put cement to sleep, and this is just not really an exciting party historically. We need some people who will tell it like it is. We have run up $2 trillion deficits for a couple years running now after historical deficits. A tenth of that. We are maxing out the American credit card as fast as we can. We are on the brink of a real economic disaster for no good reason at all. The American economy is a marvel of human history. We are destroying it through stupid choices, bad government, and it's time for somebody to stand up and say it loud and proud. All of these guys will, and I think Perry and Cain and Bachmann are particularly suited to do that, but the other guys are too.
Okay, so there's some interesting numbers here, which I find kind of important to mention. In your article, you talk about Gallup tells a different story, that conservatives outnumber liberals in America by more than 2 to 1. And that 42% to 20%. Not only that, Reagan conservatives make up 70% of the GOP.
Yes.
And then while self-identified liberals are just 3%. And the most conservative group of candidates in modern history won a record-shattering number of seats in 2010 with the support of 2/3 of America's independents. So that sounds like Barack Obama could be beatable, but if you kind of do the math, electorally speaking, he still remains viable.
Well, of course he does. There's a very large number of Americans who identify with the Democratic Party without necessarily considering themselves liberal. There's still a lot of yellow dogs. There's still a lot of blue dogs, and there's certainly.
Who'd want to be a yellow dog? That sounds weird.
Well,
do you know
it has a certain history to it. But,
I mean,
but
no
still.
offense to like yellow labs. That's cute, but like yellow dog sounds weird. Yeah.
Indeed. But certainly, I'm not talking about the wipeout of the Democratic Party here, but the facts are the facts. We have frequently run to the middle, I think in large part because the mainstream media has constantly told us that that's what we need to do. And if you think about it, that makes sense when you look at Gallup's numbers on the Democratic Party, where in fact a minority self-identifies liberal, a plurality self-identifies moderate, a 20% group actually self-identifies conservative. In the Republican Party, that is absolutely not the case. As you said, 70% of Republicans self-identify more or less Reagan conservative. To paraphrase, they believe in a traditional conservative approach to defense, fiscal, and social issues. 3% self-identify liberal, 27% moderate, which means if you want to carry our party, you really need, and that's really important if you want to get out the vote in November, you really need to have an honest, historically conservative message, and it needs to be one that can sell to the independents, 2/3 of whom voted with us in 2010. I think all of these guys pretty much have that, with the exception of the outliers.
All right, and then you see the outliers are Romney and Ron Paul. They're out. They're out.
I really
call them
think
dead
so.
wine walking. All right. Well, listen, we got to have everybody log on to your piece. It's outstanding. The best GOP field of our lifetime. Rod Martin, pleasure to have you on the program. Write something else and we'll have you back on. You are the founder of the Vanguard Project, a leading futurist, technology entrepreneur, and conservative activist. What a bio.